All right, let's talk about a feeling that drives so much of our modern world. It's this quiet, constant pressure that I think most of us feel, but we can't quite put a name to.
Does this feel familiar to you? You know that sensation that no matter how hard you work, you're always kind of looking over your shoulder, terrified of falling behind? It's like you're sprinting as fast as you can, only to look around and realize you haven't really moved at all.
This analogy just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The real exhaustion doesn't just come from the work itself, but from the performance. It's this constant draining feeling that you're being watched and you're being judged.
Well, guess what? There's actually a name for this very specific modern feeling. It's called status anxiety, and it's the perfect diagnosis for that feeling of running on a treadmill in a room full of mirrors.
So, at its core, status anxiety isn't really about what you have, not in a vacuum anyway. It's this deep, nagging fear of how you stack up against everybody else. It's a constant worry about your place in the social pecking order.
And to really get this, you've got to understand this key difference. Your absolute value is what you actually possess, right? Your house, your salary, whatever. But in the world of status anxiety, what really matters is the comparative value. What you have compared to your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors.
I just love this analogy because it makes it so clear. I mean, being at 5,000 feet sounds great, unless everyone around you is standing at 10,000 feet. Suddenly your 5,000 feet feels like you're stuck in a valley. It's all about where you are in relation to everyone else.
Okay, so why does this feel like such a modern problem? Why does it seem so much more intense today than, say, for our grandparents? Well, the theory says that our society has basically created the perfect storm, a kind of pressure cooker for this exact type of anxiety.
And it really comes down to three huge societal shifts. This promise of a fair system, the fact that we can see everyone else's lives all the time, and this newfound freedom to basically be whoever we want. Let's break down how each of these really cranks up the heat.
So first up, meritocracy. We're told over and over that anyone can make it if they've just got the talent and they work hard enough. And that's a really inspiring idea, but it has a dark side. Because if success is all on you, well then so is failure. It's not just bad luck anymore. It feels like proof that something is wrong with you.
And that's the real gut punch of it. The very thing that's supposed to be inspiring, the idea of fairness, is what makes losing feel so deeply personal. It turns an outcome into a verdict on your worth.
Number 2 is hypervisibility. I mean, think about it. Our phones are basically little windows into the curated highlight reels of everyone we've ever met. We're just constantly swimming in a sea of other people's promotions, their perfect vacations, their amazing families. It creates this non-stop comparison game that's almost impossible to win.
And that's exactly what it feels like, right? Like you're living in a glass house, and everyone's scoreboard is just on all the time for everyone to see and to judge. There is literally nowhere to hide.
And finally, there's the decline of fixed roles. You know, back in the day, your station in life was pretty much set from birth. Now, that was incredibly restrictive, for sure, but it also gave people a kind of stability. Today, we have the freedom to become anything we want, which, of course, also means we have the freedom to fail at becoming anything. This image just perfectly captures that shaky feeling. We're all on this social ladder, and yeah, we can climb, but there are absolutely no guarantees. Every single step feels precarious, and the fear of slipping and falling is always there. Our freedom came with a huge side of uncertainty.
Okay, so we get the why, but what's the so what? What does this constant humming anxiety actually do to us? How does it shape the way we act and the way we think?
Well, it shows up in some really concrete ways. We work ourselves into total burnout, not just for a paycheck, but to signal our importance. We buy things not because we need them, but for the status they broadcast to everyone else. And we become afraid to take risks, terrified of any little failure that might hurt our reputation. This quote just nails that internal feeling. It's like we're carrying this invisible audience around with us 24/7, an internal jury that's constantly judging our choices, our clothes, our jobs. It is absolutely exhausting.
And that mental weight, that burden, has a real impact on our well-being. It feeds into chronic stress, these deep feelings of shame, and that all-too-common feeling of being a fraud that we call imposter syndrome. It's a pretty straight line from there to the symptoms of anxiety and depression that are just so widespread today.
But here's the thing. This isn't just you. It's not some personal failing or a psychological quirk you need to fix on your own. Status anxiety is actually amplified by the way our society is built. It's a systemic problem, not just an individual one.
And the data on this is pretty clear.
The more economic inequality you have in a society, the higher the levels of status anxiety are for everyone. When that gap between the rich and the poor becomes a giant chasm, the stakes of this whole status game become terrifyingly high.
This puts it perfectly. The fall from the middle to the bottom is just so much scarier in a society with massive inequality. And that fear creates this ripple effect of anxiety that trickles down and affects the entire culture.
So if the problem is baked into the system, then maybe the solutions have to be too. We could start to lower this anxiety by making some big shifts together, valuing human dignity more than social rank, celebrating all kinds of success instead of just wealth and fame, and building stronger social safety nets so that failure isn't so catastrophic.
And that really leaves us with this one big, final question. If status anxiety is just a logical result of the game our society has set up, this game of constant comparison and individual pressure, then maybe trying to win harder isn't the answer. Maybe the only real way to win is to change the rules of the game itself.